When I say the word angel, be honest. What's the very first image that hits your brain? Is it a Renaissance painting?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the chubby cherubs floating on a cloud playing harps?
It's almost impossible not to have those images.
Huh.
We're talking about thousands of years of branding, art, literature, religion. They've all sort of agreed that angels are either these mystical messengers or ethereal beings of pure light.
Right.
They're firmly placed in the category of faith.
Exactly. We tend to put them in the box of things that are nice to believe in but impossible to verify. But today we're doing a deep dive into some source material that takes that box, crushes it, and throws it into a recycling bin. We're looking at a text that describes the angelic realm, but it doesn't read like scripture at all. It reads like a zoning document.
That is the perfect way to describe it. It's like a municipal layout for a very high-end, high-frequency neighborhood. It's technical, it's specific, and it's weirdly bureaucratic.
Exactly. So here's our mission for today. We're analyzing a profile of a specific entity named Archangel Holly and the realm she inhabits. But the catch is, the source claims this isn't some mystical somewhere else defined by magic.
No.
It claims it's a literal, functional location defined by mechanics, by physics, architecture.
It's a massive shift in perspective. We're moving from, angels as poetry to angels as administration. And we have a lot to get through, from the 105th dimension to unicorns, to a message about why the world feels like it's falling apart right now.
Let's get into the map first, because usually when people talk about heaven or angels, the location is just up, or the afterlife. This text gets incredibly specific with coordinates.
It does. It places the angelic realm specifically between the 12th dimension and the 105th dimension.
Okay, hold on. We need to pause on that. 105th dimension. I think most of us struggle to visualize anything past the third, maybe the fourth, if we're thinking about time.
Of course.
How are we supposed to conceptualize a span that huge?
Well, it helps to step away from the idea of place as a geographic location, like driving to a different city. Think of it more like a radio bandwidth.
Okay.
If human existence is, say, AM radio, it's functional, but a bit static-heavy and limited in range. This realm is operating on a high-speed fiber optic frequency that exists way, way up the dial.
So it's not a different place in terms of miles.
It's a different density of existence.
So they're effectively occupying the same space, just on a channel we can't tune into.
Precisely. And the text notes that Source, or God, the creator, whatever you want to call it, is separate from this. Source is above the 105th dimension.
Right. So the angelic realm isn't the penthouse suite at the top of the universe. It's the infrastructure in the middle.
It's a massive intermediate zone.
But the most critical distinction, and this is where the text might upset some traditional views, is what this realm is not.
Yes. The text is very aggressive about these distinctions.
It says bluntly, this is not heaven.
Correct.
And it is not an afterlife.
That is the big mental hurdle. We're culturally conditioned to believe that the angelic sphere is where human souls go when they, graduate. The grand hotel in the sky where you meet your ancestors.
Right.
This source says, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. It is not for human projection.
Yeah.
Not a place of worship. It's an administrative, residential, and protective zone for the beings that actually live there.
It's a gated community.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And we aren't residents. At best, we're occasional visitors to the lobby. The text emphasizes it's an operative realm.
Yeah.
Things happen there. Work happens there.
So if it's a residential zone, who are the neighbors? The text mentions angels and archangels, obviously. But then it throws a curveball that made me actually stop reading for a second to make sure I understood it. It lists protected non-human intelligences, and it gets specific. It mentions unicorns and centaurs.
I mean, you're going to bring that up.
I have to. I mean, we were talking about cosmic administration and physics, and suddenly we have unicorns. It feels like we just slid back into fairy tales. How does the text reconcile mechanics with mythical creatures?
I get that reaction. But look closely at how the text frames them. It explicitly states these are not symbolic creatures. They are Jungian archetypes representing purity or strength.
Okay.
It describes them as distinct, literal, non-human intelligences that reside within this specific dimensional bandwidth.
So it's treating them as biological facts.
Ontological facts might be a better term. In a realm that operates on those high dimensions, remember, up to the 105th, the biodiversity is just different. The text suggests that these beings, what we consider myths, are actually endangered species, in a way. They're housed there in a protected zone.
That changes the vibe completely. Instead of a Disney movie, it feels more like a nature preserve, a sanctuary for things that can't survive in our density.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you look at the geography described, it supports that whole preserve idea. It's not described as clouds and harps. It's pastel-toned, rolling countryside. It says the land is cultivated rather than wild, and the environment is ordered without rigidity.
It sounds surprisingly landscaped.
It is. It's maintained.
Mhm.
And then you have the architecture. The text describes castle-based structures.
Which, again, that leans right into the fantasy trope, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Why castles? Is it just aesthetic?
Well, the text strips away the romanticism immediately. It says these aren't places for balls or royalty.
Right.
They are functional residences and administrative workspaces. Think of a castle not as a palace, but as a fortress or a hub, a place of stability.
That phrase stuck with me, administrative workspaces. It implies the inhabitants, the angels, the unicorns, whoever, they have jobs.
You do?
They aren't just floating around in eternal bliss. They're maintaining something.
Precisely. It is a working realm. And within this landscape, there's a hierarchy of location. You have the angelic city below, and then in the higher strata, remember, we're going up to the 105th dimension, there's a distinct, sealed-off area called the Archangelic city.
And that is where we find our subject for today, Archangel Holly.
Right. Now, we need to profile her carefully, because the description here is incredibly detailed and, again, remarkably specific about what she is and, more importantly, what she isn't.
Let's start with the is not. She is not a human spirit who earned her wings.
Yeah.
She wasn't a nice lady named Holly who died in 1950.
No, not human in origin. Her status is fixed. The text emphasizes she is not a thought form or an egregore.
We should probably unpack that word egregore. It's not something you hear every day outside of, esoteric philosophy classes.
An egregore is basically a collective group thought that takes on a life of its own. Like if enough people believe in Santa Claus with enough intensity, he becomes real on an energetic level. He becomes a container for that belief.
So an egregore is like a puppet made of our imagination.
In a sense, yes. It relies on us to exist. If we stop believing, the egregore dissolves. The source is adamant that Holly is not that.
Okay.
She exists independently of whether humans believe in her or not. She isn't shaped by our culture. She isn't a mirror.
Which explains the physical description. Because if she were an egregore, if she were shaped by our culture, she'd probably look like whatever the viewer wanted her to look like.
Exactly.
But the text says she's stable. She looks the way she looks.
And let's get into those details, because the specificity is fascinating.
Hair. True gold. And the text makes a point to say, not blonde, not red, true gold, long and wavy.
That distinction matters. Blonde is a biological pigment. Gold suggests a metallic or lustrous quality that we don't really have a biological equivalent for here. It suggests a different material composition.
Green eyes. Wings that are white and literal. Again, the text underlines literal, not metaphorical. And she's wearing a white Roman-style dress secured with gold at the shoulders.
It's a very classical image, almost ancient.
Is that a contradiction? We just said she isn't an egregore, but she's dressed in a style that humans recognize from history? Why is a Roman dress? Why not a jet suit or just pure energy?
That's a great question. The text suggests that this form is her literal form within that dimension. It's possible that our ancient history, the Roman styles, the descriptions of gods, were actually mimicking them, not the other way around.
Huh.
But the key takeaway is the stability. She doesn't shapeshift. The text says she stands within her realm exactly as she is. She doesn't flutter. She doesn't change to make you comfortable. She just is.
It feels very solid.
That is the word, solid. And there's a specific term the text uses to describe her role. Stabilization.
She isn't there to judge. She isn't a warrior with a sword. She aligns with preservation. And I think that connects to how the text describes the experience of actually visiting or perceiving this realm.
This was one of the most compelling parts of the source material for me. Because, again, it completely strips away the drama we usually associate with spiritual experiences. If you read accounts of near-death experiences or astral travel, there's often a lot of emotion, a tunnel of light, a feeling of rushing wind.
And this text says, none of that happens.
None of it. It says explicitly, no tunnel, no light corridor, no astral passage.
So how does one get there? If there's no tunnel, are you teleporting?
It's described as an alignment of awareness. You don't go anywhere in terms of travel. You stabilize your perception until it matches the frequency of that realm.
You tune your internal radio.
Until you hit that 105th dimensional station.
Wow. It describes the sensation of being there as structural calm.
Structural calm. I love that phrase. It's not emotional bliss. It's not ecstasy. It's the feeling of things being in the right place. The air is clear. The space feels regulated, not sacred.
That distinction, regulated, not sacred, is so interesting. Sacred implies mystery, worship, bowing down. Regulated sounds like a clean room
Yeah.
or high-tech library.
It implies safety, but not through warmth, through order. And when you perceive Archangel Holly in this state, she doesn't approach you. She doesn't swoop down to hug you. She is just there, unmovable.
And it mentions that communication happens via transmission, not conversation. It's a download of data.
Which brings us to the mechanics of how these beings interact with our world. If they're so stable and high up, how do they deal with us down here in the mud?
Right.
We have to talk about incarnation.
Oh, this is a heavy concept. So the text says angels and archangels can incarnate into bodies, human or otherwise. But it's not what I thought it was.
How so? What was your assumption?
Well, I usually think of incarnation like the movie City of Angels. You know, I'm an angel, I'm falling in love, I'm going to pack my bags, turn in my wings, and be born as a baby. A total relocation.
Right. A transfer of address. The source material refutes that entirely. It calls incarnation a localized extension of awareness.
Not a transfer of origin.
Yeah. Think of it like this. Imagine a deep-sea diver. They're in a diving bell at the bottom of the ocean. They're interacting with the ocean floor, picking up rocks, but they're tethered to a ship on the surface. The person is in the suit, but their life support, their origin, their true location is still up on the ship.
Or like a gamer playing a character. The character's running around the screen, but the player is sitting in the chair.
That's even better. If the character in the game gets hurt, the player in the chair is fine. The text says, when an archangel incarnates, they are extending a finger or a probe into our reality. They haven't become the human. They are driving the human vehicle.
That makes so much sense. So Holly, or any archangel, stays in the 105th dimension, maintaining the castle, watching the unicorns, and just projects a piece of themselves down here.
Exactly. And the text notes that this isn't the default. It's not done for tourism. It's done for precision and function. It's a tactical move.
Incarnation is precision. That's a quote from the message itself.
Which leads us to the transmission. Because Archangel Holly has a message for us, and honestly, it isn't exactly a Hallmark greeting card. It's pretty bracing.
No, it is surprisingly blunt. Let's unpack it. The first big point she makes is about the state of the world. I think a lot of people listening right now feel like everything is falling apart. Economy, politics, climate. It feels chaotic.
And she addresses that directly. She says, your world is not ending. It is reorganizing.
Fear arises when structure changes faster than understanding.
That is a profound insight. Stop and think about that. She's saying that chaos isn't actual destruction, it's a lag time. The systems of the world are updating, reorganizing so fast that our human brains can't map it in real time.
So because we can't map it, we panic.
We panic.
It's like a software update that looks like a crash screen.
Exactly. We see the blue screen of death, but she sees the code being rewritten.
She also says instability is information.
That's the analyst in her speaking. If a system is unstable, if a bridge is shaking, or a government is collapsing, it's telling you something. It is revealing its structural limits. It is not a threat. It is data.
But she goes further. She talks about how humanity is being treated right now. She says we aren't being judged.
Right. Your species is not judged. It is regulated by resonance. This goes back to the mechanical view of the universe. It isn't about good versus evil. It is about physics.
What remains coherent continues. What fragments dissolves.
It's almost Darwinian, but on a spiritual level.
It is.
It's saying that the universe has laws of structural integrity. You build a building poorly, gravity pulls it down. Gravity isn't angry at the building. Gravity isn't punishing the architect.
Gravity is just gravity.
It just is. Holly is saying the same thing applies to consciousness and civilizations. This is not punishment. It is mechanics.
That's terrifying and comforting at the same time.
It removes the malice, doesn't it?
The
universe isn't out to get you. It is just testing your structural integrity.
So what are we supposed to do? Because usually the spiritual advice in these situations is ascend. Raise your vibration. Leave this heavy 3D world behind.
And this is where the pivot happens. This is where the text contradicts, like 90% of New Age Instagram. She explicitly tells the listener, you are not required to ascend.
You are required to stabilize where you are.
That is the key to the whole deep dive. The goal isn't escape. The goal is stability. She says, growth without regulation collapses. If you try to expand your consciousness too fast, if you try to ascend without a solid foundation, You just blow a fuse.
Your task is not to reach higher realms. Your task is to become coherent enough to sustain the one you inhabit. That hits hard. It puts the responsibility right back on us.
It does. It is a call for self-regulation. She mentions that the planet is recalibrating. That implies a massive systemic update. And our job is to basically hold it together, to be coherent so we don't get swept away by the dissolution of the old systems.
It connects back to her own nature. She's described as unmovable, calm, stable. She's embodying the exact thing she's telling us to be.
Precisely. She isn't offering to save us. That is the other big takeaway. There is no savior narrative here. She says, I do not intervene through domination. I stabilize through presence. She's acting as a counterweight, a ballast on a ship. But she expects us to do the work of steering.
It's a very empowering but also demanding perspective. There's no helicopter coming to pick you up off the roof.
No.
There's just a requirement to get your house in order and stop freaking out about the changes.
Those who regulate themselves will remain within continuity. It is a very binary outcome. Stability leads to continuity. Fragmentation leads to dissolution.
And when the transmission ends, nothing happens.
Right. No thunderclap, no choir of angels. Yeah. The realm does not change. No departure occurs. It reinforces that she was never really visiting us. We just briefly tuned into her station.
And now the transmission is complete.
Yeah.
So looking at this whole picture, the administrative realm, the unicorns in the pasture, the Roman dress, and this message of mechanical regulation, what's the big takeaway for you?
For me, it is the demystification of the divine. We tend to think of the spiritual world as this chaotic, emotional, magical place where anything goes. This source argues that the higher dimensions are actually more structured than ours.
That's a great way to put it.
They're the blueprint.
Yeah.
We're the ones living in the messy construction site. And it changes the definition of being spiritual. It isn't about having ecstatic visions or escaping reality. It's about being functional, being stable. It's about preservation of coherence.
Incarnation is precision. I keep coming back to that. It implies we're here for a specific reason, not just by accident.
Exactly. And that reason isn't to escape. It's to be here, to be a localized extension of awareness that can handle the pressure of a changing world.
It really reframes the chaos of the news cycle, doesn't it? If instability is information, then we are getting a massive data dump right now.
A flood of data.
So, here's something to chew on as you go about your day. We usually react to instability with fear, we panic, we scramble, we doom scroll. But if you take Holly's advice and view that instability purely as data, as a system revealing its limits, how does that change your reaction?
It moves you from a victim of the chaos to an observer of the mechanics. And that is a much stronger place to stand.
And maybe, just maybe, that observation is the first step to stabilizing where you are. A huge thank you to everyone for tuning into this deep dive. It was a fascinating trip to the 105th dimension.
Indeed. Stay stable out there.
We'll catch you on the next one.